Okay, so good morning, Emiliano. I just sent you a draft of some revision ideas. I'm not
Great.
altogether happy with it yet, but I think that it might represent some opportunities to make some modifications that you might be comfortable with or might not. Keep in mind that this is just a back and forth. I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to write the perfect op-ed. No one does, but I'm giving you my honest assessment and I'm trying to help. One thing that, so first of all, let's talk about what you sent me last night
Mhm.
because it was pretty special. I really enjoyed it very much. And let me pull it up really quick here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm opening up your draft over here too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And so I want to start with the really good because you not only do you have experience and are you pretty good at this to begin with, but I imagine that even though you have these own ideas yourself, I imagine that you heard some of what I suggested
Oh yeah.
and really well done. So I love the appeal to authority. You've got to talk about who you are, your background, and your expertise. And you did that. It's got to be brief, but it's got to set the tone. You are someone to be listened to on this score with
Mhm.
an intimate, personal, and expert knowledge of the subject. That's going to heighten the impact of the op-ed all the way. As you see, the New York Times, for instance, which many of us regard as some of the best journalism in the world, you see what they do. They have their stable of op-ed columnists, their specialists, although those op-ed columnists tend to have expertise themselves. You think about Krugman with economics and so forth. They love the guest op-eds, but for the most part, almost always when the New York Times is publishing a guest op-ed, they're publishing it because that guest has some expertise about that issue. So
Mhm.
we can't overlook just how important anybody can weigh in on this topic. I could too, but I can't do it as well as you because this is you are seated, you are rooted in this issue. On top of that, I love the you opened up very well, right? We can tweak words around here or there, always thinking about brevity and punch, but the basic
Yeah.
idea, of course, with your opening was look at this striking contrast. Look at this. This is tragic, disastrous, crazy. It's a train wreck. Look at it. And you
Mhm.
did that in this way of saying, we are this awesome progressive city. Yet there's this dark underbelly.
Mhm.
Yet there is this massive inequity, right?
Mhm.
It's always interesting to us as readers, as humans. We always, our eye and our heart, we always go to what's unusual, not what we already know, right?
Mhm.
So naturally, if you were trying to tell me a story about how great Richmond does in all of its healthcare assets, you'd have a harder sell to get me to get through that story because it's
Mhm.
kind of hard for me to get excited about that, about not only about what's good, but about what I kind of already know, what sort of common parlance in the area.
Mhm.
Strike off right off the bat, you strike with this is critical, this is different, this is bad.
Mhm. Okay.
Then I love the anecdote, right? You bring in this issue of this particular patient, this transgender man of color, came to me recently, distraught, right? Then, not just a local problem, a national one, of course, big, or then I love it. I mean, almost nobody gets this part, but you did. You brought in right there where I would have done it too. You brought in toward the end. This is what the opponents would say. And you say it in a way, again, that's not demeaning, not, if you out of hand discount this as crazy people or, biased people or people with hate for some reason or whatever, you're going to lose your readers. But you give their point of view a fair shake and you nudge it the other way. It's it's I'm going to fairly assess it, but I can't go with it because of X. Now we were short on data, of course, but you still did a great job of homing in on the statistical discrepancy. You didn't give me numbers that would show something, but you did go there just a little bit, just enough. Now, well, I'll go back to that. Of course, we can do better. And of course, the rousing in statement. All this is very good. And also, again, that in statement ties nicely with the beginning. It's not just let's do better, but remind us that this is what we do. This is who we are. And we can be better. Back to that inclusive, progressive leadership city idea. I love that. Now, what were some things that just struck me right away where I thought maybe we can make some improvements? Number one, naturally tightness, right?
Yeah.
735 is pretty long,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean it wasn't good. It was riveting, and it might need to be 735. It might need to be 750. But the draft I sent back was significantly shorter. And punch. The faster you can get there, the more likely it is going to resonate, the more likely it's going to be read. So anything that is even remotely superfluous, it's all going to be, it's all vulnerable to our strike pins, right? So what I sent back, I tried not to remove basic concepts.
Yeah.
I tried to just be a lot tighter sentence to sentence. Another thing to think about is sentence, not only article length, but sentence length.
Okay.
Now, I know that you like M dashes a lot, and they work quite a bit. The first one, the opening sentence was a little clunky.
Yeah.
M dash right after two words. In fact, I would think about doing that differently, but anytime those sentences, and you can do this with Google or any other word processor, look at the average length of sentence in your story. A lot of times people are coming in at like 20, 25, really high numbers, right? We want that to be low, like 12 words, 14 words, 16 words. Those are good. And then more important than even the overall average, we've got to, if it's going to go long, it better be good. It better be solid. And we want to create a rhythm. We want to divvy it up. If you are going to give me that long sentence, what do you think you want to follow that up with?
Yeah, the shorter one.
Short one, right? Get my attention back. Pop me away. You just gave me a whole bunch of stuff. Then next sentence, we must do better, right? Then go back, right? So we did that variety. And that's the same thing like in public speaking, right? I can go on, and it's another way to say slow it down or speed it up. I'll be talking a lot to you right now, like really fast. We'll be going over these different things. But then when I say, but now is where this is really important. That's the signal to your brain, pay attention. And similar to that, the shorter sentences in an article, they kind of serve that purpose as well. Okay, stop, boom, focused again. So try to install that rhythm, look for where your longest sentences are, try to make them shorter, and then try to follow them up with a short one too. And lastly, on this, I want to let you talk. I'm talking so much. Lastly, on this particular point, I would just say, always looking everywhere for superfluous words, superfluous ideas, nouns, verbs, mostly. Again, very much a rhythm of short and long. Go ahead.
Oh, no. This is all making sense. And it's different than I think I'm more used to kind of a more academic writing style often, which this is absolutely different. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Totally get it. And that is most of the time when I'm doing this kind of work with people, that's the issue is, we're highly educated. We're coming from academic backgrounds. We're accustomed to doing things a certain way. That's not what popular press is about, right?
Yeah.
Popular press is about this right here.
Yeah.
We ain't got no footnotes, no endnotes. You can sometimes. The only reason that we cite anything is just to signal to the reader extremely briefly that I know what I'm talking about. This is true, right? So you would say something like, if you want to say like, 60% of transgender youth in America feel unsafe going to the doctor. That's comma, according to the American Medical Association. Or you could do it before. an influential AMA survey in 2020 found that. Oh, and you only do that because that's boring. That's boring. We don't want boring. But why would we do boring? Only to emphasize the power. It's a signal to the reader. Well, that's true. I'll just bank that. I'm not going to dispute that.
Yeah.
We don't want them disputing our numbers or our ideas. We want them, we want them to use their middle energy, not saying, is there really a problem here?
Yeah.
But really wrestling with what we do about the problem.
Yep.
One other thing I would mention is on the anecdote, right?
Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you. There's one thing that's kind of missing, and it could be with the anecdote, or it could be somewhere else in there too. And in fairness, I don't think I even mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
But it's the vivid detail.
Okay.
And when I say vivid,
yeah,
I mean sensory. Probably sight, but it could be a sound or it could be a touch, right? But the vivid detail is what people are going to remember that's going to signal everything else. It's going to create the lattice on which all of the vines kind of are hung nicely and we remember we could touch it again. So what would that look like, for instance, right? It could be the easiest one would be going back to that anecdote, right? You said he's distraught, right? Well, distraught is an interesting descriptor, but give me a noun, give me a verb that shows me that, right? So if you tell me, like, as you know, when he came and sat into my office with his downcast eyes, and he only muttered, you know, in just above a whisper, how scared he was to come to the doctor. That's it, right? One sentence, two sentences. I got a vivid detail there and what do we humans do with those vivid details? We remember them, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to remember we're going to remember basic outlines of your argument, but we're not going to quote you. But I'm going to remember probably the guy with the downcast eyes, right? Yeah. And you could also do it with smells and sounds too. You know, you could say, like, you know, when I walked out of my office, you know, and smelled the excrement on the corner, right? Not that fits here, but I'm just saying, like, you could say that and people can remember that. Or as you know, as I'm walking to my car after a long shift, hearing the frequent wails of sirens, you know, outside of Kaiser. Boom. Remember, right? So find me a vivid detail that you could throw in there somewhere, and that can really increase the impact.
Okay. Cool.
Now, in the stuff that you had below, consider including. Now, I didn't do it because, frankly, I didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
But when I look at it, what I say to myself is that third of youth in California are trans non-binary. I like that, right?
And in general, I also just kind of was left with the question of, should I try to include more data? The truth is, I have a master's thesis on health disparities for trans folks. So in some ways, it's like I have too much data, you know? And I think I was trying to kind of titrate down for myself, what are the data points that make sense in here?
Yep. Yeah. Very good. So what I would say is, like, you could keep this article without getting too long. You could easily insert a vivid detail or two, right? Yeah. And just a matter of a few words, that would be huge. Then you could insert. So what we have here is there's one number, right? 50% of transgender people report. Gotcha. And you said research shows. Okay, so that's good. The question is, like, research shows. Okay, I like it. I believe it. The only reason why you might opt to specify exactly whose research is if that research is, like, if mentioning it makes it stronger. So, in other words, if the research was from, you know, a Contra Costa County Health, they contracted a polling firm to do this. Well, that's not very interesting. That's not very cool, right?
Mhm.
But if the research was done by Harvard School of Health
Yeah.
or Stanford School of Health,
Yeah.
what is that? Appeal to authority.
Mhm.
That suddenly signaled in my mind, well, I must believe them. They're really smart, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So you got the 50%. That's one data point.
Yeah.
Um,
And just the research shows on cost effectiveness.
Gotcha.
I don't think I include any other data.
So I would think about maybe my usual go-to on these is I'd like to see two.
Okay.
I'd like to see two numbers somewhere. We can work with one. Zero is
We've got so
pretty
much more. There's so
Gotcha.
much more we can put in.
Now,
Easy.
but on the other hand, we don't want to load it up too
Right.
much, right?
Yeah.
Like anything over 3 or 4, like we're starting to get a little weird, right? So
Mhm.
only your best ones, but 2 is kind of a magic number for an
Okay.
op-ed of this length. Then I would say, so this third, so back to your suggested points, consider including, which I didn't, but I'm looking at them and I like them. The third of California youth are non-binary. I love that, right? So number one, now that is like a really shocking data point, which makes it good.
Mhm.
But it also, the more shocking it is, the more we want to know who's telling us that, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that one, I wouldn't recommend saying research shows, right?
Mhm.
Because somebody's going to say, wait a second, that's BS. That's what they're going to say.
Mhm.
You tell me where you got that, especially if you got them something good.
Mhm.
And if it's not quite a third, you just say nearly a third or about a third or whatever.
Yeah.
But a third, but by the way, saying a third is really good
Mhm.
because that's, we conceptualize that number. That's a lot better than saying 28%.
Totally.
Yeah, you know that. Okay. Then the some that go so far as to suggest, I think you're right by keeping that out. Look, we know there's a lot of haters that are saying a lot of terrible things. This whole thing is about people being uncomfortable. We don't need to give any space to that. I don't think. Election of Trump. Yeah, I like it, but like you did say in the thing, like something about like a hostile, nationally, like a hostile thing around it, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody's freaked out and juiced up out here about Trump. So like jumping into that pool like doesn't really help us here, right?
Mhm.
Everybody already knows that context. What we don't know is this crazy, like we're already freaked out about what Trump's going to do nationally, what he's going to do to our immigrant communities. We're all bracing for that. What I need to, what suddenly gets only thing get my attention off that is like, wait, you're telling me that our forte, we're not doing as well as we could either? We can make changes right now to get stronger? I like that. I have more, but let me reach out to you. What are you thinking?
No, yeah, and we're covering some of my questions that I had too. So that's a number of my questions that I had. So this is helpful. Yeah, and I obviously haven't been able to really look at your draft in a good way yet, but
Of course.
Yeah. So happy to keep going with your thoughts.
Okay. So data point.
Yeah.
The selection is crucial, right? 2 or 3, but make sure that they really hit where they are and don't cluster them together. They can be in the same paragraph maybe, but like not the same sentence, of course, you'd like to spread them out a little bit, right? Once you've hit me with a data point, like I need to rest. I need you to tell me why that's important for a little bit, right? Your personal voice, your appeal to authority, it's huge. Now, you could also add, now we're talking about, less about the language and the format because it's pretty good. And I think you'll see from my draft, it's just, it's getting tighter, right?
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't have given it to you if I didn't believe in some of the sentence structure and some of the tightness. I do. But I'm not going to bat for like what's omitted.
Yeah.
There may be some things that are omitted that ought to be there that I have disincluded or have overlooked. So just because I didn't put in there, please don't think that's a damping cold water on an idea. Include more if you feel like it's the right thing to do. Short sentences, of course, short paragraphs, variety in length. and look at your average sentence length. And if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got some long ones, definitely think about breaking them up. That doesn't mean they have to, but
Right.
most of the time when you have a long sentence, you could turn it into 2 sentences.
Yep.
More
Yeah.
and oh, sorry, more periods than commas. More
Yeah.
periods. The more you can eliminate commas, the better off you are.
Uh-huh.
Semicolons, very rare.
Yeah.
I tended to say don't do it, but
Uh,
some people, certainly you can. I wouldn't do it more than once in an article.
Yeah.
Um, Certainly adjectives are always to be minimized. Nouns and verbs, right?
Okay.
Color, show me, don't tell me. Show me, don't tell me. Like they told us in high school when we were writing essays, right? You've of course avoided the jargon, the medical speak that some people lapse into. Great job on that. Um, I'd say you could think about definitely you want to think about the headline and you want to think about the way that it syncs with that first sentence and that last sentence. The
Hmm.
theme of this whole thing is our transgender population is suffering and we must do better because that's who we are. We do better, right?
Hmm.
I love that. Oh, that reminds me on the issue of the reason why I'm so hot on that data point of
Hmm.
California youth,
Hmm.
30%,
Hmm.
because what does that portend for us, right? What does that
Yeah.
imply?
That
And you
the
don't want to
yeah.
imply too much, you want to spell it out.
Right. Right. Right.
But what it implies is
The
the
demand.
problem is going to get worse.
Yeah.
The challenge is going to get greater.
Uh-huh.
More people will be hurt if we don't get this right now. This isn't a passing phase.
Uh-huh.
We
Yeah.
need to reform our systems to meet the new reality of the people who rely on them, right?
Yeah.
This is crucial. We are at the beginning. Now is when we can strike and we can make a better future. It's all the ball is on the tee for us right now. That's what we're really
Mhm.
saying with that 30% youth, the future. Tell
Yeah.
me about the future for a second. I really want to hear it. And I want
Yeah.
to hear how we're going to meet it and we're going to meet that challenge.
Hmm.
Um, I would say another tip that could help is on the appeal to authority, which you've already got yourself. But is there something else that you could throw in there? Is
Hmm.
there maybe a transgender colleague?
Okay.
Or maybe I was sitting around in the break room with all the other residents at the hospital and we lamented, and someone said this. And tell me if you could tell me a little tiny story, right? Because when I say tell a story, people think, but in the news business, in the op-ed, telling a
Yeah.
story means like the dog ran away, I found the dog, happily ever after, right? That's the
Yeah.
story. Super
Yeah.
short.
Yeah.
So if you could tell me a little story in there that demonstrates that evokes that other physicians are
Hmm.
seeing this problem. That's a good one too, right?
Hmm.
I mean, we already buy it, but this just puts it down one more time. I'm not just some rogue non-binary physician who's
Right.
talking about this. This is a real thing. Everybody's talking about it, right?
Yep.
To borrow a page out of Trump's handbook, as we talked about earlier, right? I think I mentioned
Yeah.
that before to you.
Right.
The
Right.
one
Right.
thing that I know that he probably failed out of Pennsylvania. That's why he doesn't show his stuff. But he was definitely paying attention to that marketing class when they
Hmm.
said, everybody loves it. Everybody's talking about it. It's such a powerful thing. You just say it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And when you say all the doctors, all the health experts,
Uh-huh.
well, that's
Uh-huh.
even better, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Now, one thing that we don't have in here
Hmm.
that we could, and this is a little tricky, it could elongate it,
Hmm.
but if you can get something in there, call to action, right?
Yeah.
People want to, in the end, if they really buy your op-ed and they read the whole way
I don't know
through,
what to do.
they
Yeah.
want to be rewarded with something that makes them feel effectual,
Hmm.
something that makes them feel like they can make a difference. Now, It can't be a big thing. If you tell them to, quit their job tomorrow and come protest in front of the hospital all day, that's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But can you give somebody something that they can do to be part of this mighty wave of inclusivity and better health?
Mm-hmm.
You could ask them to write a letter to, their health provider. You could ask them to write a letter to their congressman, whatever, right? But give somebody something really, maybe it's just as simple as, talking to the people in your circle, or, being kind to somebody who is non-binary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, give somebody something to do, some little win that they can have to share in this movement.
Mm-hmm.
It recalls the old RFK quote, and not this RFK, the old one, where he said, all of us are these tiny little ripples that merge into a giant wave.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to be part of the wave.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, we are at 11. I have more time, but I don't want to go. I'm going to respect your time. What do you think? What can I do for you?
I think that this is good. I would love if you're open to it, and I don't want to overtax you, of course, but if you're open to it, I would love to be able to send you a draft a little bit down the line. For me, this is probably going to like mellow for a few weeks while I go work in the hospital, and then I'll come back to it.
Imagine this, right? You go back to the hospital, you're doing your work, and you're just gonna get all kinds of a better perspective, experience.
Yeah.
You're gonna come back, you're gonna read this with new eyes.
Yeah.
You'll probably have new ideas to how to make it even better.
Yeah.
And of course, you might the sterling anecdote may exist out there in the future. I mean, I know you probably
Yeah.
have one in mind already, but who knows? We know what we are, we know not what we may become.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So by the way, the answer is yes, absolutely. I would be delighted. In fact, I'd be sad if you didn't send me a new draft. I'm so excited about it. I think it's really good, and I think last year, somebody at least one person in your cohort had an op-ed published in the popular press, and it
Yeah.
looks terrific. It's about public
Parks.
spaces and
Yeah.
obesity.
Yeah. 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 Nika.
Yeah, really enjoyed working on that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for, taking us under your wing with us and just providing a lot of great editorial advice. And it's really a fun, like specific expertise that you get to give to this from, both your journalism background and also all of your policy experience. So I appreciate your specific eyes on this. Yeah.
Well, that's so kind of you to say, Emiliano. And again, I'm super impressed, and I'm always impressed to some degree, but I'm not just gassing this one up. This was really good,
Thank you.
and man, thank you so much, and thanks so much for going into the health field and working for public health in our community and wherever you may go in the future. The world would be a better place with more doctors and more public health professionals. So I'm very appreciative and grateful.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Robert. And yeah, I look forward to being in touch as we continue moving forward here.
Whenever you're ready, I'll be ready. And email me or call me anytime. And I'll look forward to it very much.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks again, Robert. Appreciate you.
Have a great day.
Bye.